Welcome to Spiritual Calisthenics. Christ is in our midst. Today on Sunday, August 20th, we commemorate the 11th Sunday of Matthew, as well as St. Samuel the prophet, the holy martyr Luke of Bouleutos, and St. Stephen, the first king of Hungary. Regarding Samuel the prophet, this most holy man, a prophet of God from childhood, was the last judge of the Israelite people, and anointed the first two kings of Israel. He was born in the 12th century before Christ, in the city of Matins, Sifa, from the tribe of Levi, the son of Elkanah and Hannah. He was the fruit of prayer, for his mother, being barren, conceived him only after she had supplicated the Lord with many tears, wherefore she called him Samuel, that is, heard by God. As soon as Hannah had weaned him, she brought him to the city of Shiloh, where the ark was kept, is the ark of the covenant. And she consecrated him, though yet a babe, to the service of God, giving thanks to him with the hymn found in the third ode of the Psalter, "My heart has been established in the Lord." Samuel remained in Salem under the protection of Eli the priest. He served in the tabernacle of God, and through his most venerable way of life became well-pleasing to God and man. While yet a child, sleeping in the tabernacle near the ark of God, he heard the voice of God calling his name, and foretelling the downfall of Eli. For although Eli's two sons, Ophni and Phinehas, were most lawless and despisers of God, Eli did not correct them. Even after Samuel had told Eli of the divine warning, Eli did not properly chastise his sons, and afterwards, through various misfortunes, his whole house was blotted out in one day. After these things came to pass, Samuel was chosen to be the protector of the people, and he judged them with holiness and righteousness. He became for them an example of all goodness, and their compassionate intercessor before God. Far be it from me that I should sin against the Lord in ceasing to pray for you. Yea, I will serve the Lord, and show you the good and the right way. When he asked them, having God as witness, if he ever wronged anyone, or took anyone's possessions, or any gift, even so much as a sandal, he answered with one voice, "Thou hast not defrauded us, nor oppressed us, nor afflicted us, neither hast thou taken anything from anyone's hand." When Samuel was old, the people asked him for a king, but he was displeased with this, knowing that God himself was their king. But when they persisted, the Lord commanded him to anoint them a king, saying, "They have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me from reigning over them." So Samuel anointed Saul. But Saul transgressed the command of God repeatedly, so Samuel anointed David. Yet since Samuel was a man of God, full of tender mercy, when the Lord told him that he had rejected Saul, Samuel wept for him the whole night long. And later, since he continued to grieve, the Lord said to him, "How long wilt thou mourn for Saul?" Having lived blamelessly some 98 years, he became an example to all of a God-pleasing life, and reposed in the 11th century before Christ. Many ascribe to him the authorship of the book of Judges and of Ruth, and of the first 24 chapters of the first book of Kings. As we celebrate the memory of thy prophet Samuel, O Lord, through him we beseech thee to save our souls. From St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. Brethren, you are the seal of my apostleship in the Lord. This is my defense to those who would examine me. In other words, the people of Corinth. St. Paul is saying, you are my seal. You are what I am stamping down to say, this is what I'm going to give the Lord, to say, this is what I've done, this is my good work. And that's my defense for those who would examine me. Do we not have the right to our food and drink? Do we not have the right to be accompanied by a wife, as the other apostles and the brothers of the Lord and Cephas? Or is it only Barnabas and I who have no right to refrain from working for a living? Who serves as a soldier at his own expense? Who plants a vineyard without eating any of its fruit? Who tends a flock without getting some of the milk? Do I say this on human authority? Does the law not say the same? For it is written in the law of Moses, you shall not muzzle an ox when it is treading out the grain. Is it for oxen that God is concerned? Does he not speak entirely for our sake? It was written for our sake, because the plowman should plow in hope, and the thresher thresh in hope of a share in the crop. If we have sown spiritual good among you, is it too much if we reap your material benefits? In other words, St. Paul is talking about the necessity of paying clergy, because clergy are supposed to work. They're supposed to be available at any time to help people with their spiritual needs. And so St. Paul is saying that We should, as is right, take care of our clergy. But St. Paul is showing this because of his divine example, that you should do this, but I'm not taking advantage of that. If others share this rightful claim upon you, do we not still more? Nevertheless, we have not made use of this right, but we endure anything rather than put an obstacle in the way of the gospel of Christ. In other words, rather than people say of St. Paul and his disciples, well, they're just doing it for money. They're just doing it so that people will pay them. St. Paul's saying, no, I'm going to refuse this. I'm going to work with my own hands and feed myself, even though this is what is proper and right and you should do for those that are ministering to you. From the Gospel according to St. Matthew, the Lord said this parable, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. When he began the reckoning, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. Now, a talent is a measure of weight, so about 70 pounds of either gold or silver. This is what was used in the way of doing trade, especially when you're dealing with large amounts of currency that would be going to ships. And so it was done by weight as opposed to being done by counting out each individual coin. So it was the weight of the gold. So you could imagine that even 1 talent, they've shown, is worth roughly about in calculating how much a talent is worth, about 70 pounds of gold in today's currency would be worth about $1.6 million times 10,000, and that comes to roughly $16 trillion. This is more than the gross domestic product of any country. And so the point that Jesus Christ is trying to make with this parable is that there's no way you can possibly repay that. It's an impossible sum. And as he could not pay, his Lord ordered him to be sold with his wife and children and all that he'd had, and payments to be made. So the servant fell on his knees, imploring him, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the Lord of that servant released him and forgave him the debt. But that same servant, as he went out, came upon one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. Now, a denarii is a day's wage. So factoring today's average of about $30 an hour, is the average in America, 12 hours of work, that's about $360 a day. Times 100, that's about $3,600, which is, it's not nothing. That is an amount of money. It's about 100 days worth of work, but that is easily something that one could pay. And seizing him by the throat, he said, pay what you owe. His fellow servant fell down and besought him, have patience with me and I will pay you. In other words, he besought the same way that he was besought. He refused and went and put him in prison till he should pay the debt. When his fellow servants saw what had taken place, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their lord all that had taken place. Then his lord summoned him and said to him, you wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you besought me. And should you not have had mercy on your fellow servant as I had mercy on you? And in anger his lord delivered him to the torturers till he should pay all his debt. So also my heavenly Father will do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart. This is a very, very hard saying that Christ is telling us. He is telling us that we have to forgive every debt. Now, in the Lord's Prayer, where it says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, I would say better translation would be, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Meaning that all that is owed to us, whether it is monetarily or as an onus of somebody wounded me, we have to forgive all of it. Christ says it's not just a matter of saying, oh, I forgive. Because we see that all the time. It's like, yeah, I forgive them. But you can see from the person's posture that they don't really forgive anything. They're just saying they forgive because it's the right thing to say. They have not forgiven in their heart. We have to forgive from our heart. And if we don't forgive from our heart, then no matter what good deeds we do, no matter what philanthropy we do, it won't matter. We will not enter paradise. We will be thrown into the outer darkness. And so it cannot be stressed enough. Forgive, forgive, forgive. We cannot have anything around our neck that will not enter the kingdom of heaven. There was a story of a monk who was rather lazy, he was not the best monk. Sleeping in church, his voice was terrible, his studies were bad. And when it came time for him to die, as his time was drawing near, several of his brother monks said to him, "Brother, don't you think you should maybe go to confession, prepare your soul for death and judgment?" Because this is an allegory to the final judgment passage that we just read. And he said, "No, I'm fine." "You weren't the best monk." "Oh, I know I wasn't very good. I was the terrible monk, the worst monk. But from the day that I put on my schema and entered this monastery, not even once have I ever judged one of my brother monks or anyone else." As he said this, read this last, and chariots of angels came down to escort his soul up into paradise. This tells us that you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the number one saint to enter paradise. You just need to forgive people. Love as God forgave. Forgive as Christ forgave. Then we can enter together. Otherwise, we're blocked by our own hatred. Please, my brothers and sisters, let us love one as Christ forgave and loved. I hope that you've enjoyed today's spiritual calisthenics. Have a blessed and wonderful day.